Good evening, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. I think there's some. John is in Alaska. I guess it's midday there. Nice to see there's quite a few people already, 23 people. Revel, Nona, John Norris, of course, Mike from Seattle. Billy's here tonight. Hi, SW. Farid, Zach is here. Thank you, Farid. Nice that you're here as well. Nacho, Rick from Texas, Jillian. So the title of the live stream today is a look at what government and the central bankers have done to our money. That, of course, some of you might know is in relation to this book here. What has government done to our money? The case for 100% gold dollar. That's by Murray Rothbard. I put a link to this book below in the description. It's a free PDF if you don't want to buy the book. I've had this for many years, this book. And some of you probably know this book already, but some of you don't. And I think it's really important book to read if you want to understand what's going on in the system. And I'll come to that a little later. Just let's see, Pablo Pina is here. Marion Billy, how was golf this morning? Yeah, it was a team competition. So we were playing 4 guys and we're taking the 3 better balls, 3 best balls. It was cold early on, but then it warmed up a little bit, but it was fun. It's just nice to get out there. We had a bad front 9, but we played well in the back 9, but we didn't win. But you can't win them all, right? Joel Johnson, hi Joel. The Doom EMJ, enjoyed part 1 of your Wise Man. Yeah, I haven't, Bitcoin Ben, he's published that already on YouTube. I haven't gotten the file yet. I will publish it on my channel probably tomorrow because it's getting a little late. Mike from Rethinking the Dollar is sending me a file. Bitcoin Ben got ahead of it. Have Billy drop a pile. Smells like. Okay. So let's get rid of this guy. I don't know if he's joking or if we want someone like that here. Remove. Okay, he's out. Colonel Crypto. Hi, Colonel Crypto. Pablo Pina, I saw the story. It's I think it was one of the branches of the bank in another. It wasn't in Tehran, so I'm not sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I saw yesterday on We Are Change that the protesters in Paris, the yellow vests, they're celebrating 1 year of the protests, and they actually bashed down some windows of HSBC Bank in Paris. Low blood pressure. What do you think about the Kitco silver spike? Oh, was that earlier last week? It's just a mistake. I didn't really see the price of in other, even the Kitco, like on the day I checked the Kitco chart of silver, and they didn't have it trading at 23 or whatever it was supposed to have traded. Yeah, I heard about that bank burning, but you need to. Yeah, it wasn't in Tehran, so it was in a smaller city. Looks like people are getting fed up with the banking system in Lebanon as well. I think they're fed up with the system. Mr. Andy from Devon, damp Devon. It's damp here in London too. Northern Ireland. Great to see you. On Wise Man. Yeah, I haven't received the video yet. It's going to be posted on my YouTube channel as well. So what has government and central bankers done to our money? As I said, it's mostly about this book. I think here it is by Murray Rothbard. I recommend this book. Some of you might know about it. I've spoken a few times about this book. But I think it's good to look at the bigger picture And this book is probably one of the reasons why I'm so much against these guys, the Fed, the Bank of England, right, and the Fed. Because once you read this, you understand what money really is, and you realize how governments have hijacked it, and the central bankers. The central bankers are basically the bankers that got together with the politicians to basically control things instead of letting the people control the market, the free market control money. So I'm going to go through, just see how this goes. I'm going to go through the introduction first from Murray Rothbard, which I think is quite interesting what he says here. Gary D. from Northern Ontario. Okay, so hopefully this, let me know if you enjoyed this kind of live stream. Go through the book, go through the introduction, and then go through the first chapter. And then maybe I can continue next weekend. So we'll see. Introduction. So this is what Murray Rothbard says. Few economic subjects are more tangled, more confused than money. Wrangles about over tight money versus easy money, over the roles of the Federal Reserve System and the Treasury, over various versions of the gold standard, etc. Should the government pump money into the economy or siphon it out? Which branch of government? Should it encourage credit or restrain it? Should it return to the gold standard? If so, at what rate? These and countless other questions multiply seemingly without end, right? So it's all these questions that are really technical and don't really look at the fundamentals and the origin of money. So this is what he's trying to get at. Perhaps the babble of views on the money question stems from men's propensity to be realistic, i.e. to study only immediate political and economic problems. If we immerse ourselves wholly in day-to-day affairs, we cease making fundamental distinctions or asking the really basic questions. Yeah, that's the reason why I really recommend this book, because it goes to the basics and fundamentals of money. And once you understand that, you will understand why the current system is so flawed. Not saying that a free market monetary system like it should be is going to be perfect. Humans are not perfect, right? But I don't think we'd get the bubbles that we get now under the current system, right? There are bubbles and stuff in a free market system, but they're not as accentuated, but because they're not supported by the government. So let's keep going here, see what he says. Often we need to gain perspective, to stand aside from our everyday affairs in order to understand them more fully. Yeah, and that's what I try to do here in this channel, to look at the bigger picture. Of course, we do talk about things that are happening day to day, but I think it's also good to do this. And this is what Rothbard is talking about. This is particularly true in our economy, where interrelations are so intricate that we must isolate a few important factors, analyze them, and then trace their operations in the complex world. This was the point of the Crusoe economics, a favorite device of classical economic theory. Analysis of Crusoe and Friday on a Desert Island. Much abused by critics as irrelevant to today's world, actually performed they emphasize that there's always reactions to policy, right? And the Keynesians never really think about that. They don't think of the consequences. They just want to. They just look at equations, and they don't look at how humans will react to it. They look at it as an exact science, right? Is this okay? Let's keep going then. Of all the economic problems, money is possibly the most tangled and perhaps where we most need perspective. Money, moreover, is the economic area most encrusted and entangled with centuries of government meddling. So you see, this has been happening for centuries. It's not something recent. Of course, in the West, there's been a battle for freedom, free market money, right? Andrew Jackson didn't renew the Charter of the Bank of the United States in 1837, and it took until 1913 to get another central bank. But here in England, we've had a central bank since 1694. So let's keep going. Many people, many economists, usually devoted to the free market, stop short at money. Oh, hi, Tom. Thank you for the super chat donation there, Tom Taylor. So yeah, even Milton Friedman, free market economist, he never touched money. They stopped short at money. And why? Let's see. Money, they insist, is different. It must be supplied by government and regulated by government. Why? Right? They never think of state control of money as interference in the free market. A free market in money is unthinkable to them. That's why I think cryptocurrencies are interesting. I know they're very speculative, and I don't hold as much cryptos as I do precious metals, but it's an experiment in free market money, cryptocurrencies. Let's see. Governments must mint coins, issue paper, define legal tender, create central banks, pump money in and out, stabilize the price level, etc. So yeah, that's what even free market economists think that. And why? If everything else is supposed to be in a free market, why not money, right? Historically, money was one of the first things controlled by government. And the free market revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries made very little dent in the monetary sphere. I think that's a very interesting comment there. I hadn't read this book for a few years. Reading this makes sense. We have had free market that has increased in the last 100 and 200 years, but it hasn't applied to money, right? And a lot of economists think that's impossible, but why? Why should it be impossible, right? Let us first ask ourselves the question, can money be organized under the freedom principle? Can we have a free market in money as well as in other goods and services? What would be the shape of such a market? And what are the effects of various governmental controls? If we favor the free market in other directions, if we wish to eliminate government invasion of person and property, we have no more important task to explore the ways and means of a free market in money. So there you go. That's the introduction, and I'll stop here for now, and I'll take your questions, see what's going on in the chats. Yeah, Rexman says from weights and measures to promises, right? It's only promises to pay nothing, right? I guess now the money is debt, and that debt is backed by the taxpayers, right? That's why it's so important for them to tax us. It gives the paper money some semblance of value, but I think what's going on now with all the money printing, with all the debt increasing, it's going to be harder and harder for them to keep the value of their government money. Arith, do you actually post a free PDF link? Yeah, it's in the description, Arith. I put it in the description of this live stream. Alexi, Truthfinder, do you think we are mid-cycle with the recent market strength another 10 years? I think we are near the end of the cycle. The Fed is trying desperately to keep it going. And it's not the economy they're keeping going, it's the financial sector, really. They've added $300 billion to their balance sheet since the end of August, which is huge. So we'll have to see how long they can keep doing that. Well, and the other thing, Alexi, we just had The New York Fed and the Atlanta Fed, they revised down their forecast for GDP, U.S. GDP for the fourth quarter, almost to zero. They revised it down to 0.3. So I think we're near the end of this so-called expansion. I don't think it was an expansion of a lot of debt. It hasn't really created anything of value, in my opinion. It's all been inflated to keep the banks and Wall Street whole, right? Colonel Crypto, do you think brokers like Hargreaves and Lansdowne will go bust from derivative bubble? Some of them could go, even though brokers shouldn't really go bust because they shouldn't have positions themselves. They're only like executing trades for clients, but you never know. I saw a headline saying that a lot of people are starting to short Hargreaves and Lansdowne. I'm sure probably a lot of brokers and banks will go under in the next crisis. And I think the next crisis is going to be the biggest ever because they've blown a huge bubble. I think the world now has almost more than 300% of GDP in that. I think we're going to be at 250 trillion by year's end. So, and that's not counting all the derivatives exposures. Derivatives, I think the notional amount of derivatives is 1,000 trillion, which is a quadrillion. So it's really crazy. That's right. Sound money is a cornerstone for free markets. I agree. So we've got, free markets out there and a lot of things. All we need now is a free market in money. Problem is governments and bankers have hijacked the system for the last few hundred years, and we need to take back control of our money. That's what we need to do. That's why when people ask, what do you think, what rate do you think they're going to reset the system at? Hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully their system will implode and we will reset the system ourselves. We will use what we want as money, because as Rothbard goes on to talk about in the book, and I'm not going to go through the book again now, maybe next week I'll go through some more sections. Basically, they start out with what they call regression theory analysis. You go back to see how something started, see where we're at, right? So basically, before there was money, there was barter, right? And in the barter system, if you think about barter, you have to exchange value for value. So there's actually no inflation in the barter system. And that's why inflation is a purely monetary phenomenon, because there is no inflation in barter. You have to exchange something of value for something else of value. The only problem with barter is sometimes you can't match goods and services between two actors, right? And then he talks about what becomes money in the free market. Well, it's whatever is the commodity that is most marketable. What does that mean, the most marketable commodity? Well, it's the one that everyone wants. So, and it's been all different kinds of commodities through the ages. It's been conches, it's been cows, and it's been sugar, it's been salt, it's been precious metals, right? Gold, silver, it's been copper. But gold and silver for the last few thousand years have been the most marketable commodity. It's all people have also used. They talk about the Sumerians and their tablets. That was a system more of Reddit. They used to keep track of things writing on their tablets, right? But if you look at the history, a lot of the tablets said that they owed the silver, right? So it wasn't really, it was backed by something. So yeah, cigarettes as well. At the end of World War II in Germany, cigarettes were used as money because most adults, a lot of them smoked, and the currency there collapsed as well in the aftermath of the war. No, hi, nice to see you here. No, cheerleader. Mash the like button. That's right. So yeah, basically, yeah, the most marketable commodity becomes money, and it could be anything. I'm open-minded. Some people might argue from looking at my videos that I have a fetish for precious metals, but I don't. It's just that it's had the track record for thousands of years, gold and silver, or copper even. But I'm open-minded, and I think cryptocurrencies have a future in this money game, and it's a real free market thing that's evolved in the last 10 years, cryptocurrencies. And that's why when people ask me, oh, what about the Chinese cryptocurrency? The Chinese government wants to issue cryptocurrency, or the Federal Reserve wants to do a US dollar crypto. Well, I say that's no good because it's still centralized, right? What we want is decentralized money. And gold and silver used to be like that. It's just that the government's hijacked control of it. And they punish people who want to get out of their system, and they force people into, of course, paying tax with only their currency, right? That's why they have the legal tender laws. Do you think that if there were legal tender laws, people would accept pieces of paper? No, probably not. And if there were no laws that said you had to pay tax with that government fiat, people probably wouldn't use it. It would go away, right? So I think that's the important focus. Agartha says Bitcoin is the king and will stay the king. Gold is slow, silver is slower. I know I bought a few 100 grams. Good luck selling at the top. Ain't no one buying at the top. Bitcoin can be sold anytime. I'm not sure about that. Why would you want to sell unless you need to spend it? Gold and silver are money. And I think there will come a day where there will be no level at which people will get rid of gold and silver, or even Bitcoin, for a piece of paper. You have to start thinking of Bitcoin, gold and silver, or grams in terms of the ratio with other goods, right, and services. I think it won't matter the amount of fiat dollars it's worth, because the system will have collapsed. So I'm not too sure. And that's why trading precious metals and even Bitcoin defeats the purpose. I know people want to trade, they can trade, but in the long term, you want to hold on to them, because there won't be fiat currencies, I think, or they will get destroyed, because there is no way out of all this debt bubble. Silver has a store of value. Crypto has a store of value, says Colonel Crypto. Yeah. So do gold and silver. So do other things as well. It's not just crypto. GRE68 prefers fiat money. Get a paper. Okay, that's fine. If you want the fiat money, that's fine with me. I don't. Colloidal silver, yeah. I did buy some colloidal silver years ago. I haven't got any right now, but yeah, it's very good for how can I say, the immune system, isn't it? Colloidal silver it's very good. Yeah, the thing about gold and silver, and people say, oh, gold has no use. It does have, of course, jewelry and some other uses, but that's why that's why gold is money, because it's not consumed. If it wasn't consumed, it wouldn't be money. Silver is consumed, but it's also money. It's like a slightly different than gold. Bitcoin isn't consumed either, right? There's no use for Bitcoin. Some altcoins are related to applications, to apps, right? Decentralized for dApps. So they're a bit different, but there's demand for them as well. Yeah, that's right, John Norris. The colloidal silver kills virus. That's what I wanted to say. Patrick Campbell, thoughts of gold's PA right now? What do you mean, PA, Patrick? Agartha, yeah, you're a trader. That's fine. I think it's also a store of wealth. I think cryptos, you can trade them and try to, accumulate more of it. But if you in another business, if you're not a trader and you're able to save, I think cryptocurrency and precious metals are a good store of value. It's actually saving. It's not an investment. Yeah, John Norris, big pension problems coming. Yeah. You're being sarcastic. Great. GRE68. Sorry. He doesn't like fiat either. John Norris, yeah, the problem with pensions is that they've promised people 7 or 8% return after they retire, right, on their nest egg, and there's no way they can get that. Yeah, it's going to be a big mess, and that's one of the other reasons why the Federal Reserve is trying to keep the stock market up so much, because a lot of the pensions have invested in paper assets, and if and already, but the problem is they, in order to keep the stock market up and the pension assets inflated, they need to keep interest rates low, and when you keep interest rates low, you can't pay people their income from their pensions, right? So it's a nightmare. It's going to end badly. They're going to have to print, or they're going to have to tell people they're not going to get as much as they were promised. A lot of people are going to be unhappy, or they're going to have to tax people more. And if they print more, then investors might sell their bonds because they think inflation is going to go higher. And if the bonds go down and yields go up, then the Fed's going to print more to keep rates lower. It's just a huge mess, as I said. Yeah, the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve, they own a lot of the debt. That's right. That's true. But you're right. Christine, no regard. John Robinson, what do you think about voice over blockchain technology that's being implemented in cell phones and laptops? I haven't looked into that, to be honest. I'll have a look into that. Not sure what that is. Richard Powell says he liked the way I described the expansions and expansion of the debt. Yeah, that's right. You look at the last couple of years, and I'm not saying tax cuts are no good, but if you're going to have tax cuts, you got to cut spending as well. And that hasn't happened the last 2 years. So we've had $1 trillion plus deficits. So yeah, it's really, everyone talks about how the economy is doing great and everything, but no one talks about what the other side of that, which is the massive amount of debt. If we hadn't had those deficits, like 5% of GDP the last few years, GDP would have been negative. So it would have been in a recession already. Oh, I'm sorry I can't read Arabic, but thank you for that. Maybe you could write your name in English, and I might be able to call you by your name. Billy is snoring a lot tonight. Best entry-level economy books for Ken. I would go into Mises.org, the Austrian School of Economics.org. Loads of great books there. This, of course, I spoke about this book earlier in this live stream. You need to read this book, What Government Has Done to Our Money, if you want to understand the current monetary setup in the world that we've had for a few hundred years. I put a free PDF link in the description of the live stream by Murray Rothbard. Buy a lot of booze when the surf people will trade to get drunk. Learn to make whiskey, you'll never starve. I think in England, in the 70s, I wasn't here in the 70s. I didn't grow up in England. I've been here since 92, but my wife tells me about the 70s. She grew up in the 70s. The economy here wasn't great. And a lot of people used to make their own like alcoholic drinks in their backyards. Yeah, they used to ferment stuff in the backyard. I came from an old family older than USA, and back then they used to say silver kills a god, and God gives life, and gold gives life to the gods. But hey, these are just old stories. Inflation or deflation first? I think we're having inflation since 2008. We're having inflation. Look at how much the debt mountain has grown. We have had inflation. That's inflation is the creation of money and credit. The only thing is that the inflation is in the financial markets, and it's not flowing into the real economy. And when it is, it's not really that much. So after an inflation, there's a collapse. So we're already getting the inflation. Where does the bear animal in the market originate from? I'm not so sure, but I know the bull market. They say it's a bull market because if you ride a bull, and it's hard to stay on top of a bull, and it's the same thing with a bull market. It's not everyone stays long in the bull market. I'm not sure why they call it a bear market. Nick Aman, could you do a podcast on the Continental? That would be really interesting to me. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, the Continental. I mean, that was the currency that they printed during the Revolutionary War. It's different from the colonial script, actually. But basically, I think they just printed too much. But I'll have a look more into that and talk about the Continental. Not worth a Continental. Bear sleeps in the winter. I guess that's right. Yeah, a sleeping market, sleeping bear, hibernating. Brian from New Zealand, do you think the collapse will be slow, i.e. take place over the space of years, will be quicker than that. Yeah, I mean I think we're having the collapse already. The general economy, people are not as well off as they were 10 years ago everywhere around the world. Maybe not in some countries, but I think it will be quick because what they're holding up is the financial markets. So that's going to be quick, I think, and swift. Some people seem to think that they can keep going just like Japan has kept going, but I personally have a feeling it will be very swift. Aaron Levy, would you ever consider moving to Switzerland? Well, I mean, I do have family in Switzerland, and I have lived in Switzerland before. Um, and it's a great country, and I go there regularly, but it's still really expensive. So I'm not sure. Well, maybe if gold and silver do well and cryptos do well, maybe I'll be able to move there one day. Super genius. All these doom and gloom gold pumpers keep saying fiat money will destroy everything, but markets are just going up. My 7 shares of Amazon are doing awesome. Yeah, they are. Amazon is doing well. The thing is, historically, super genius is that all fiat currencies collapse. You look at history, all fiat currencies have collapsed. There's no fiat currency that has lasted that long. Gold and silver have had they've got the best track record of over thousands of years, and yeah. So, but you can stay in the stock market. I think the PE ratio now for stocks is the highest it's been since 2000 and also since 1929. So I think stocks are overvalued, and the only reason they're going up is because the Fed is creating money out of thin air. That money's been taken by the banks and pumped into corporate bonds, and then the big corporations take that money that they sell in bonds and they buy their stock. Over 100% of the gains since '08 in the stock market have been from stock buybacks. So Amazon is not going up because it's a very profitable company, or other companies are not going up. They might be profitable, but they're overvalued because it's all financial engineering. And just because they can keep it going for a long time doesn't mean that to say that it won't collapse. Super genius. So anyway, Gabriel Biz. Yeah, I was born in Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, yeah, but I've been away from Brazil for decades now. Alexi Truth Finder, what can stop them? I think people will realize that what the Fed is doing and the other central banks are doing is based on thin air. And yeah, there will just be a moment that the Fed is creating, the money out of thin air that they're creating will never be able to be paid back and has no value. John Norris says Indian women hold 10% of world's gold. That's probably right. The German in Germany also a lot of people hold gold. Some people think the German public hold privately more gold than the Bundesbank, the German central bank. Blah blah blah. I do have. I've made 2 hole-in-ones. Yeah, so I've got two. I've been playing for almost 40 years. I started when I was 15, and I've only had two. I know someone in my club. He's about 75. He's a good player. He used to be a very good player as well when he was younger. He has 28 hole-in-ones. So design digital architecture. Your subscribers own 10% of the world of gold. 10% in gold. Yeah, hopefully they do have some gold. What would happen if Deutsche Bank collapses? I think the whole, all the other too big to fail banks would follow suit. The central banks would probably do loads of emergency money printing. Yeah, I think that's what they're doing right now with the repos and the QE. Because don't forget, the repo and QE by the Fed, too big to fail banks all around the world. That's a good theory there, Jay Anon. Trump is using the Federal Reserve like a credit card. Then when it's not feasible to pay, he will file bankruptcy and remove them. Hopefully, because basically what the Fed is the biggest hedge fund in the world, and all they have, I think, about 35 or 50 billion. I think it's 75 billion. I'm not too sure in equity, but their balance sheet is over 4 trillion. So they're highly leveraged. That could be the case. Yeah, it would also explain why President Trump, before he got elected, when he was campaigning, he was talking about the big, fat, ugly bubble with the Dow at 17,000, right? With all the low interest rates. And now he's cheering on for the stock market to go higher, for the Fed to cut rates to go to negative. Yeah, I think he's probably you could probably be right. He's trying to destroy them by making them do all the wrong things, right? Yak Maneco from Bulgaria. Hi, Yak. Agent Jeff Thomas, do you think there will be a public bailout, helicopter money, universal basic income? There could be, but it's not the solution. Money has to have value, as I was speaking about earlier in this live stream. Before there was money, people used to barter, and you only barter with someone if they have something that you value and you have something that they value. So by printing money that's just a piece of paper will not help. And that's why it's so important for people to have monetary metals, in my opinion, or cryptocurrencies as well, or anything but the paper money, right? Martin Larson, you're welcome. He says, thank you for your work. I've learned a lot from you. John Norris, Epstein knew too much. Of course. Wow, yeah. Graham thinks Epstein's still alive. Could be. He's going to keep very quiet, though, I think. Design digital architecture, inflation. I think that's the problem. People have perverted the definition of inflation. Inflation is out of control now, I would say. and that's the debt that's ballooning, the central creating credit out of thin air or money. That's inflation. I guess what you're talking about is consumer prices, right? I still think consumer prices are still, they're not really stable. They're going up. You should look at shadow stats. He talks about if you measure CPI like they did before Paul Volcker in the early 80s, CPI would be like 10%. SW, after 12th of December, Bank of England will turn on full-time QE. I think they will. You're right, SW. And in the last Bank of England meeting, two members of the MPC voted for a cut. They're just like warming up. They're going to follow all the other central banks. Mark Jackson, if everything goes tits up, house prices. Yeah, I mean, there won't be a market for, there won't be a market. You won't be, people won't buy or sell anything. It's going to be like a dead market. So yeah, if you think your house is worth a certain amount and you're going to be able to sell it and buy a smaller house and keep the cash, it's going to be very hard. So that's what I think will happen. There won't be what the price won't matter. There won't be buyers or sellers out there. The credit will shrink. Yeah, so it won't be good. Barter. Have a sip of water. That's my end of Fed mug. Some of you have bought the mug in my Teespring store. I also have another mug, a Bank of England equivalent, which is shut down the bank, retire the old lady of Threadneedle Street. That's the nickname of the Bank of England, the old lady of Threadneedle Street. Lunar rat coins and bars. I have some Chinese silver coins. I've got some Chinese gold coins as well. It doesn't matter what country the coins are from, as long as they're gold or silver, right? It doesn't really matter. Of course, in the UK, sovereigns are not liable to capital gains tax. Any coin, precious metals coin with a monarch on the coin is a coin of the realm. No capital gains tax for gold. Silver there is, of course. Patrick Campbell, Chinese gold coins can't be trusted. Well, I'm not sure about that. I think they can. A lot of the dealers in the UK, they sell the Chinese gold coins. They wouldn't be selling it if they weren't for real. I think it was in the US a few years ago that they were putting tungsten in the gold bars. I think it was in the jewelry district in New York. They found some gold bars with tungsten, but I think you got to be careful with gold coins or gold bars from everywhere around the world, not just the Chinese. GRE68, you can't barter crypto without power. No power, no money. Yeah, it's difficult to send cryptocurrency to another address if there's no power. But I'm not sure. I mean, if power went off Temporarily, yes, but if it went off for good, I mean, what kind of world is that, right? Even gold and silver might not be. I think it would be better, but yeah, that's. I think sometimes, even though I talk about these things, uh, about the system that it will implode, I think I'm not being negative, because I think things can get fixed quite easily. The only reason they haven't fixed it is because they want to hold on to their power. But having grown up in Brazil and seen some currency collapses there, get better again. Even in Germany in 1923, the high. So it's not the end of the world. Stacking on the low. Oh, hi, nice to see you here. Yeah, I'll keep going for a few. I think we're almost at the hour mark. I'll do another 10 minutes or so. Tin is valuable as well. Yeah. Toilet paper is very valuable as well. When there's if there's a credit collapse, and we have the just-in-time system, right? The shops don't stack things on the shelves, too many things. It's just in time, right? So yeah, there's a lot of important things that we need to keep. Tom Taylor, I saw when I went to Italy in October in Florence. I think they had the Hard Rock Cafe there. I didn't go to it, but they were advertising a cheeseburger. Tanner Gray said, "I told you Tiger would win a major in 2019. You didn't believe me." I don't remember that, Tanner, but I take your word for it. He did win a couple of tournaments. Tom Taylor just bought 96 rolls of toilet paper. Lorenzo Mari, how long have you been waiting for the end of the dollar? Well, the dollar is melting, right? Gradually. If you look at its how many ounces of gold it will buy. In 1971, it bought 1/35 of an ounce. Now it buys 1/1500th of an ounce. But one day, so it's lost like more than 90% of its purchasing power since the Fed was created. But the last percent will be really ugly. So, and actually, it's not a dollar, right? Because technically, a dollar is a weight of silver, 371.25 grains of fine silver. So what we're talking about here is not dollars, really, is the Federal Reserve note, which is just a promissory note. So technically, the dollar is fine. The dollar will never disappear because it's a weight of silver, right? Right, Lorenzo? And the word dollar comes from Joachim's Thaler, which was a silver coin from Austria. Minted by a guy called Joachim. I think he was a nobleman, or he had a mine, and they became really popular, the Thalers. Yeah, and then they had and they were used. They became so popular that other people copied them. So you had the Spanish dollars, Thalers, and that's where the dollar, U.S. dollar, comes from. Because many people might not know. When the U.S. was fighting the British, the Revolutionary War, the colonial period, and even afterwards, a lot of people used Spanish coins in the U.S. There was no, as long as there was silver or gold, people used silver and gold coins from all around the world in the U.S. So I don't think the dollar will ever disappear because it's silver, right? It's a weight of silver. The Federal Reserve note, though, I can guarantee you, it's going to continue to lose value versus the dollar or silver. What silver bars do you prefer? I've got one on my shelf over here. It's like a 2 kilo bar. I've got 5-gram bars, 50-gram bars. I've got this 10-ounce kookaburra. It's like a coin, but it's like really big coin. So whatever I like, it doesn't really matter. GRE68 says the dollar is derived from Dutch dolder. Maybe some people think it's from the Spanish dollar, and that's derived from thaler, 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 which was actually in German. It's thaler is like a valley, and that's where they minted the silver to make the coins, and they're from Joachim's thaler, from Joachim's Valley. So that's not sure about the Dutch one, but the Dutch could be also derived from thaler, right? All right. I'll take a couple of more questions and I'm going to call it a night. Yeah, if you have any more questions, just ask me. And you're welcome, John Norris. Nice for you. Nice to see you here throughout the live stream. Powder Beast, how much metals? Well, I look at precious metals as money, as saving. So it's up to each individual to decide how much they want to save and how much they need to save. Everyone has different circumstances, right? No, I don't. G-Man, I don't have platinum. I don't have platinum. J Anon, but I'm not saying it's a bad metal to have. It's a precious metals. Dave from X22 seems like a well-knowledgeable individual. Have you ever been on this show? No, I haven't. The only thing I would say about Dave is that we don't know who he is, right? I've never seen his face. I've never heard him talk about his background. And I don't like that. I show my face. I tell people my background, where I've lived, where I've grown up, where I've worked, right? And I just think that's a little, I haven't watched him that much anymore, X22 report. So, and I don't know where he gets his sources. All right, everyone. Thank you very much again for the support and the participation in the live stream. Next week, I'll probably go into the first chapter and talk about like indirect exchange, barter, and all that. Okay. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of the weekend, or have a great Monday if you are in New Zealand or anywhere else in the Far East.